Welcome back.
Welcome to the last episode of the TAE Time Podcast 2022.
Woo!
Caught you there for a bit. But it's been crazy. Kind of started this at the end of 2021, but then we took a 6 months break or something.
No. The official videos consistently started on January 12th. So it's almost our 1-year anniversary with you guys, which is crazy.
Exactly, because we've been doing video for a whole year now because we were using, as some of you may know, only OGs that we used stereo at the start when we first started this whole podcasting journey, and then we're like, we want video. We wanted video for a long time, but then it was just like it's expensive to start a little bit, blah, blah.
I think the main issue was that, we weren't living together and having to, come over or try to set up times. And also we didn't have a proper, desk or setup. And it was just kind of a little bit difficult, but we made it happen.
Yeah, but you can even see, in the old videos, we had that little shitty desk that Nicola has.
We still have.
It's in the other room, in the bedroom. And it's kind of one of those things. But and now look, we have a sign.
Yeah, let's address the elephant in the room. Obviously, this is our 1-year anniversary gift, Christmas gift
to ourselves.
This is from my mom. She decided to contribute towards it, so thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
We're official now. It feels official.
Mulțumesc. So TAE Time. Sign. I hope you guys enjoy it. Tell us what you think. Is it good? Is it bad? I don't care what you think. We paid money for it already. Anyway.
Expensive too.
But and in this light of New Year beginnings and looking to the past and whatever, we were like, what better way to do than to get some of your questions and be like, hey, we've been doing this shit for a year now. What do you want to know about this whole thing? The whole podcast, this process, the whatever. What are your thoughts? What are the things that have been itching your little brain for a while? So we were like, put up some questions. And you sent us some in, and we'll answer them for you.
Yeah, it's kind of like our TAE Time 2022 wrapped.
Yeah,
like a little review. Like Farouk said, we've compiled some questions that we've gotten throughout the year from you guys, but also in person from a lot of people that we meet who are like, we have a podcast, and their questions are instantly what we're about to address today.
Exactly.
So starting off with the first question.
Let's get into the meat and potatoes.
Let's go. Why did you start the podcast?
Why did we start the podcast, Nicoletta? Come on.
Well. If you're a listener of the pod, you would know the true origins. No, but Farouk and his friend started a little podcast without me.
FM radio podcast.
No way, he's still repping it to
Shout
this
out
day. It
FM.
doesn't even exist anymore.
Marcel, you're useless. You're useless.
Oh my god. I've wanted to start a podcast with him back in uni days, so this was a long time ago. But he did start one with his friend, and it worked really well. I can't even lie. I can't even give them any shit for it because it was like FM, because it's Farouk Marcel, and it just kind of rolled off. It was a really cool idea, and I was really excited to see where they get, because I was like, oh, I can help with editing and marketing it, whatever, blah, blah. It flopped. So
not because we tried, but because Marcel is lazy and trying to get. So for some of you guys that don't know, I was streaming for a little bit during college, just doing it for fun, seeing how it is, and it's not easy, obviously. But and then I was like, oh, let's do the podcast as part of my streaming, one of the shows on my stream. And then I was like, yo, Marcel, let's do this. Let's record. And Marcel's like, yeah, man. Yeah. And we'd record once every month or two. I'm like, what the fuck is this? There was just no consistency. I even had the logo, the whole graphics, while the stream and stuff like that. But now that flopped because of him. So I'll never forgive you, Marcel. But, it was good, because if that didn't flop, this might have never happened. Well, to be honest, it would have probably happened. Let's not lie. I would have done 2 podcasts at the same time. I'm that guy, but
it's just that obviously this one would have been better.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been as good because I would have had to divide my time between 2 podcasts, and clearly one podcast is doing a lot better than the other one. Like, where's your sign, FM radio podcast?
No, you're shitting on your own little pod.
So obviously, like, yeah, nah. No, I think it's cool. Like, it's one, like, doing multiple, like, there are some people out there who do multiple podcasts, but I feel like you really need to dedicate your time to one well, and then once you, like, really grow one, then you can, like, start, like, doing, but if you try to do 2 at a time, I don't know, I feel like it's too much division of labor.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Especially because I feel like if you say something in one, it can start being repetitive. If people are listening to both, then you're kind of making the same points. So it's like people already know you and your thoughts. So you're just sharing it on multiple different, platforms. But yeah, that's how this podcast came about. I've been crying to Farouk about starting one with me. And he'd be like, oh, what are we going to talk about? And I'm like, bro, we can talk about anything. We can talk about everything. Sorry. And he was like, oh, but you don't know much about video games, or like, you don't know much about anime.
Context. And I'm like, FM Radio Podcast was about that. It was about pop culture, like video games, anime, all these things that Nicoletta isn't into. So I was like, how are we gonna talk about that?
And I get that, but it's like, a podcast doesn't have to be just about that if you're doing it with me. Exactly. And at the same time, we've had episodes on video games, and we've talked about animes that we've watched together. And I like to say that you guys have found them entertaining. So
we need to do more.
Yeah.
But just saying, like, if you guys are interested in that, just make this podcast blow up on YouTube so we can start getting paid. And once we can turn this into a full-time job, I will make a specific series around those topics. Yes. So pay me.
Long story short. But obviously, if we are able in the new year to, grow to the point that we can monetize our work, I think there's a lot of things in the works that even you guys have been asking for, so we will prioritize that for sure. Merch. You guys haven't been asking for merch. Ooh, actually.
Yeah, some people have been.
Some people have been asking for merch, but
you know who you are.
Some people have been asking for a little behind the scenes, if you know what I mean.
I'm not giving you vlogs. You have to literally pay me to give you vlogs. I will not give you vlogs until you pay me.
And they will. Okay, period. But yes, to answer the question, that's how this podcast came about. And it's been fun. It's been a fun journey. Next question. How did the name come about?
Once again, take the lead. What are you saying? Because the history of this is pretty contended. Like, some people think it's conspiracy, because some people think one thing, other people think another thing. But instead of arguing with people, just allow one person to have the single source of truth.
There is a single source of truth here. When we're thinking how to come about with the name, I think it kind of stemmed from what we just talked about, the conversation of what are we even going to talk about? And I was like, oh, we could talk about everything, right? And I was just I like the anagram idea. Anagram, is that what they're called? Yeah. They're like little letters. Yeah. I was like, I really like that idea, and I really wanted to do something that was simple, but not too overly complicated. And then I thought about TAE Time, right? And TAE, if you don't know, in the Irish language means tea. And at the time, I was watching a lot of, tea channels because they were spilling the tea and all this stuff. And I was already invested. And it kind of worked out well in that you sit down, have a cup of tea, and listen to us. And we also talk about everything. Time.
Yeah. And that's the single source of truth of TAE Time. Now, let me tell you what okay, that's what it is. That is what it is. Yeah.
It was kind of pretty chill. I don't think there was that much thought into it. It was just like, let's come up with something quick. We just never thought that would actually do this well. Well, maybe you have. Maybe you'd had more faith than me.
I had more faith in myself.
Okay.
I'm a superstar.
Next question. How do you come up with topics?
Topics. Yeah, so I just have unlimited knowledge in my brain. So I just go, and I'm like, Nicoletta, let's talk about this. And then Nicoletta goes away and refines the shit I just spilt out. And then badam, baboom, that's our topics. Really, like, you guys laugh, but that's probably our process. I'm not even joking with you. I literally have a bunch of random shit in my brain, and I just go, Nicoletta, let's talk about this. And then she actually goes, yes, okay, that's nice, but like, what about it? And I'm like, that's kind of like your job.
Figure it out.
Figure it out. I give you the idea, no, you process it. And then obviously Nicoletta herself will like think of things like, oh, we should talk about this, like the friendship episode she came up with, and I'm like, oh yeah, cool, so it's like kind of like that. It's kind of like we both kind of have ideas, and sometimes we'll have like similar ideas, and we're like, okay, how do we put this together and like make it into one whole shebang? Like, once again, listen here, because I know some of you fuckers are sitting there at home listening to this being like, it's not hard to come up with some topics. Come up with some topics, list it out, and then actually try to discuss about it. It's not as easy as it seems.
It's not, because I feel like topics are so broad.
Yeah.
They could go in so many different directions, and it's like, well, how do I put this in a 30-40 minute, episode?
Make it interesting. Try to keep them like, I'm not saying I'm keeping you guys entertained, by the way. I'm not saying it's interesting. I'm saying I'm trying. I'm trying to make it interesting and whatever for entertaining for like X amount of time. But yeah, no, like coming up with an idea, like whole thing, but then kind of like scripting it out and everything is not the most straightforward thing, but it is fun to do. It is fun.
I think it is fun. I think sometimes it's like if we're recording on a Thursday and the episode is coming out on a Saturday, there's a little bit more pressure, and that's when we butt heads a little bit more on, oh my god, what we should do, and say he suggests something, I'm like, we can't do that, that's too broad, and he's like, well, we can do this, so it's like there's a little bit more pressure, and we feel it because right now we're a little bit ahead of schedule, and it's a lot more chill, where we have more time to discuss things, and if I'm not feeling myself one day, we can just record the next day,
which happens a lot. But like, yeah, no, it definitely helps. It's kind of like if you think about like how YouTubers are putting out content, like a lot of them, those things are recorded months or weeks in advance. And, like you kind of like generate the content, you do it, you make it, whatever. And just having that time to be able to be like, yo, this is good, this is not good. Like there are sometimes we have an episode that we just scrap. Like, it hasn't happened too often, but there are times we literally record and we just scrap it, like, because we're just like, there's no point. Or there will be like, oh, we should do this. And it's like, oh, no, like we're going to do that episode. And then we're like, fuck it, we're not going to do that because it's just like, we feel like we won't get much out of it. So, like this episode was meant to be something different. And then we were like, yo, actually, this is actually going to move up in a different way. So like, like you never know. Like there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, before we get to the point of you seeing this video.
Would you say that we struggle coming up with topics?
As I said, no, there's unlimited knowledge up here. Like I have ideas for days. No, I'm joking. But I do find myself like as a very creative person in the sense of like because my brain just goes like 100 miles an hour. It just like there's just random shit in my brain. I'm like, yo, this, like this, that. So I don't find it too hard. But obviously, like there's a difference between, as Nicholas said, like having a broad idea of like what you're going to talk about and actually having the specifics of like what you're going to hit in the episode and stuff, So it's nice to have like the notes app with like talking points or questions and stuff like that, And that's one thing that's also, we tried, and that's why we don't want to milk them, but like the Reddit stories and stuff like that is great because you don't have to think. It's like we've been scrolling Reddit for the last fucking how many weeks, we have things that we're like, wow, this is interesting that we sent to each other. Screenshot, boom, read the story, give our reaction. It's pretty straightforward. But the thing is, we didn't want the podcast to just be that. Yeah. We wanted to be ourselves as well, personalities and stuff like that, and like our takes. So like we're like they're great to do, and we enjoy doing them. Don't get us wrong. But sometimes if you do it too much, it just feels like a cop out, instead of...
Absolutely. And we're 100% aware that you guys like them, which is why we, launched the Tea Time with TAE Time, which is, a story every single day on the social media platform. So it wouldn't be like podcast form, just because, we understand that you guys find them entertaining. You like to see them, you engage with them. And that's important that we're putting out stuff that you guys want to see. But this is also, like you said, an episode, like a podcast about us, our takes, day-to-day life, and just like different random stuff that we decide to talk about. And sometimes it becomes a little bit of a struggle because it's just the two of us. When we have guests, it's a little bit easier to just throw the whole focus and attention on them and hope that they do the best. And we just ask them a bunch of questions. But because, I like that it's the two of us and we're just generating content on our own. 2023 might have a few more guests than normal, but I do like us two sitting down and just chatting to you guys for a while.
Yeah. One guest per month.
Oh.
I just made that up on the spot. That's not true.
And this is how our ideas come up. Because from here on out, this is what you're probably going to see, you know? No. But yeah, like the struggle with the topics, sometimes, occasionally, it is a struggle. We have to do a little bit more digging. But sometimes it's just chill.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty straightforward.
Exactly. Or whatever's going on in the media, you know? Okay, what's your process like? You know, how do you record it? So on and so forth.
Yeah, so our process is we first, as we just mentioned, like we start off with the topics, get what we're going to do, blah, 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 and then we kind of decide, all right, we're going to shoot this day. Usually somewhere between Tuesday and Thursday is the days we shoot. And then it's like after work, bada bing, bada boom. Part of the process, Nicoletta getting her hair wet, you know, as in like having a shower, washing her hair so she can have her hair looking the best or whatever. Then we have a whole like GarageBand is what we use to record the audio, and we have these mics, and then we have obviously the ring light. Glow. There for a second. I was gonna call it glow light, ring light. And so like the idea is kind of like we kind of set up the whole thing, do a quick test run, be like, well, Nicola does a quick test run. She's like, do I look good? Does this look good? Do I not look ugly right now? And I might happy with myself. So, and then the whole situation is then we record it on GarageBand. We have the video recorded on my iPhone. A lot of you'd be surprised to know that, because a lot of guests are like, "Whoa, you guys don't record on a camera," but it looks good. And I was like, "Yeah, no shit," because your iPhone can record in 4K. We don't even record in 4K. We record in 1080p. Haha.
But at the end of the day, I guess a lot of our listeners are listeners and not viewers. So I would say that our whole mic setup and everything is really good.
Yeah, exactly. And we have the whole thing recorded. Export that whole shebang onto Google Drive, download the audios, put the video on my computer, sync up the audio to the video, edit the coloring, edit the audio, all that good jazz. And then we schedule it for, obviously, Saturday is when the YouTube drops at 6 p.m. And then 9 a.m. on Sunday is for the audio, which is also video on on Spotify. So that's like the whole thing. It's kind of straight, like it seems pretty straightforward, but at the same time it's a lot of time consuming. And then you have the massive overhaul part that Nicoletta does, you know, with the editing of your favorite little clips that you interact with on social media.
Obviously the process isn't easy because it starts off with Farouk being like, I will record it today, and then I have to think about how I feel. And if I'm feeling down or just not in the mood, I'm like, oh, can we just record tomorrow? And he's like, fine. Yeah. And then it takes about an hour for me to do my whole makeup, you know, and hair. So, you know, we're just kind of dealing with two different things. Farouk is dealing with all of this, and I'm dealing with all of this, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, so then what happens with the whole video? Farouk takes it, puts it together, slaps it together, makes it pretty, cuts out bits that might be controversial. We've done that.
She's lying. Plausible deniability.
And then with the clips, I take the whole episode after he's put it together and edit it in such way that it's somewhat entertaining in a whole minute, because it can't be longer than a minute, you know, and it can be as short as it wants to be, but you have to convey some sort of point in that time frame. Like I see, do you know what it is? I see a lot of people online use almost like what's it called, like, you know, like bite-sized video. So it's like 5 seconds long and it can just be used for anything, for whatever context you want. We haven't really focused on that. We focus more on make sure there's something being conveyed in the clip that you're putting out. Yeah,
no. And then like the whole thing is like we want it to be good enough on social media that it's like, one's going to grab your attention, and two, like you're going to enjoy it and be able to interact with it, because like there's no point in putting stuff out there if people aren't interested in like interacting with it. Like it's not one of those like videos where we want you to just go like, oh, that's cool, like move. Next. It's kind of like oh, this is interesting, like this is my take, you know. And that's a lot of the things we do, like because we do that normally in the podcast. We ask you to like tell us what you think and stuff like that, you know, in the comments, because like we're actually genuinely interested, and it's like good to have that back and forth.
That's the thing, because that kind of brings us to the next point of like the clips and how to make sure that they are interesting, because there are times when it's hard to get a clip if there isn't anything really there, you know?
Like this episode is going to be difficult because only the people who give a shit are going to enjoy those clips.
But the thing is, I don't know if there will be any clips from this episode. I think we might take a little break.
Clip hibernation hiatus, bro.
Clip hibernation. This is more of a like.
Except it'll be just, you'll get Reddit clips though.
Yeah,
still.
of course. They're there to stay.
They're there to give us followers.
Views. But yeah, like I don't know with the clips, this is why in a lot of videos we have it kind of sectioned off and try to have little prompts, because it's easier to create clips if here's the context for this bit of the video, let's just break it down, divide it up into 3-4 little clips and see which ones are the most interesting, which one can be uploaded. Yeah, I don't know, sometimes it's hard to convey everything into a minute, which is why sometimes some people saying some things on the pod, including myself or Farouk, comes off as a bit controversial, or oh my god, they said that, but you don't have the whole context. So that could be a good thing because people are engaging and being like red flag. But if you watch the whole episode, you would know that
you have the full
it's
context.
Not the full story.
Yeah, exactly. You have the full context, and that's like the whole interesting thing about like social media. It's like everyone just looks at the clip and just take it at face value instead of trying to get a full context or something, And like obviously, like it's one of those things that we try to not make it look tries to make it not look as negative as possible or controversial, but like there's only so much context you can generate. Like we do see other people like on other platforms, like in TikTok you do have a lot of people who would post 2 minutes 3 minutes clips from their things, but the thing is like Reels only lets you post a minute, or anything more than a minute is IG video. So like obviously, and she doesn't want to like it'd be so long. Like right now, like once again, we're not kind of like paying. We're just doing this for fun. So it's like the last thing you want is to have to make different videos for different platforms, and stuff like that. Like obviously, if this was something we're doing a lot more seriously, like not just for fun, it would be like, oh yeah, we take the time out to have videos for TikTok, have videos for Reels, so on and so forth. But like right now, we kind of you have one clip and you put it on all 3 platforms.
And that's the thing, because I think if you're to start off a podcast, it's a little bit difficult to try to decide, oh, what kind of content should I make here? What kind of content should I make here? And it's been a really interesting learning curve for us as well. As in, because Instagram took off, it made it a little bit easier to be a bit biased on, okay, this platform is going to get the most attention from us. It's going to see our day-to-day lives on the stories. This is quite of recent times that we, Farouk and I were talking, we're like, hey, should we show more of us? Because you see the podcast, but at the same time, it's us, like do you guys want to see us interacting like in our day-to-day lives? And you guys said yes, you do. So because of that, we've started posting more day-to-day lives, our holiday together, just kind of things like this that make us human, adds more of a human element.
Well, in reality, I'm just an AI behind the screen, so don't worry about that.
Yeah, exactly. And like Farouk said, with choosing the platforms, it's like, I'm only gonna make them a minute because, like you said, Instagram Shorts only accepts 1 minute long clips. So I just don't have that time, like you said, to put into editing different clips for different platforms. It's just not the time right now. Hopefully in the future, if we could do this full time, absolutely more than happy to. It's just for, write this.
And if you want that, tell your kids, tell your mom, tell your family, tell everyone to go subscribe to us on YouTube, because that's where they pay.
Okay, what's the weekly editing looking like?
The weekly editing is, so mine has gone up and down. So initially when we first started this, and it was audio only, and we're using stereo, we had 1 track. So that was a nightmare to edit. I don't think you understand when I say nightmare to edit. That was a nightmare. If let's say a video was an hour, it would take me like 3 hours to edit it. And that's not because I'm slow. I've been editing for a long time, like even before the podcast. It's just how bad it is, And then eventually when we started doing it, doing the thing, I started, and we still had the kind of like 2 tracks. I still took a little bit of time because I was like doing kind of like separating the tracks, cutting things out, thinking whatever. But then Nicola was like, oh, it's better if we actually just keep the whole thing. Like, cause I would cut out like the little down parts of like stuff. And then eventually we got to a situation where I just had the whole thing, and it was the golden age, where I just cut the start, cut the end, boom, end of.
And the controversial bits.
Kind of control what and that's pretty much, and obviously like clean up the audio and the video, like the lighting and how loud it is, and so like that's clean. But then I went back to the cutting out separate tracks. I personally didn't like it because it just the thing is we are sitting so close to each other that my mic is going to get feedback from her and her mic's going to get feedback from me. So like even if I cut it, like for example, if I mute one track and I leave it fully blasted, I would be able to hear Nicoletta on my mic. Obviously not as loud, but I would be able to. And that's just it's just based off the location we are. So like even though I have each track separate, it's not really separate like that, And so like for a while, Nicoletta thought it was better when it was cut like that. And I was like, no, it doesn't. I've been listening to this thing for like God knows how many months now.
Yeah, I'll explain why though.
And then we went back to the whole just cut the start because like obviously like it's just one of those things, like and it is kind of like she'll say it's kind of due to the fact that we both kind of talk at the same time sometimes, so
I mean it's bound to happen though, right? Like it's just a conversation. The reason I thought it was better was because when I was editing the clips, usually I would use the final version, but then I started using the version that he just finished, so it was like where I could view the audio track. And when I was cutting bits out of who's talking, the audio was a lot better when it just came out of one mic versus both. And that is true. It is better, and it's easier to do in a clip form because I'm just editing like 1 minute. But when now Farouk is doing it for a whole 40 minutes, it's a bit crazy, and it's hard to get like so spot on that it's the start and end of someone saying something, but then it's still getting picked up on a different microphone. So it just kind of made sense to keep both in.
Yeah,
but it's a learning curve. I think we've kind of tried
it's
everything.
One of those things. Eventually, if we move and get like a better thing, we can kind of have a little bit more. Like also, I want to get like kind of like mufflers, which kind of, but it doesn't really help because once again we're so close.
Proximity.
Like we would have to. We need a little bit of distance between. Like we're literally nearly shoulder to shoulder like here, so we need more distance to each other for us to not like pick up on each side. Like if we were kind of standing on either side of this, and also the room doesn't really allow it because like if we had those sound like things, it'd catch it before they would go over. But obviously, once again, it's all location based. So
we're working with what we got here,
And a lot of people literally say it sounds great because these mics sound fucking amazing, and they'd want to. They cost a lot of money.
They did, but they're worth it.
Absolutely.
They're really worth it, and I think we might get another one if we have an extra guest on. But yeah, with clip editing on a weekly basis, it's, like I said, taking whatever Farouk has ready and cutting it all up. I do this during lunchtimes, before work, after work. If I'm sneaky and I have a little couple minutes during the day, I'll sneak in some editing in there. But yeah, it's just kind of like, it takes up a lot of time. A lot of our days are, dedicated to this, and the more of us that we put out there, even with the stories, the more it becomes more and more of a day-to-day job on top of our 9-to-5 jobs. So, guys, be aware, we do have full-time jobs as well. So this isn't full-time yet, which is why, if sometimes we're lacking, it's, we're doing other stuff. Would you do this as a full-time job?
Yeah.
What a beautiful segue.
Yeah. Would we do that? Yeah. If you paid me what I was making right now to work on this, I would say hell yeah.
I don't think you would. I think you'd like 2 sources of income.
She's right. She knows me well. I wouldn't quit my job. I would do this and my job.
Yeah.
To literally make as much money as possible.
But then
I have to get to such a stage that I'm making like 2 times what I'm making at my job.
And even then you'd be like,
and even then I would still question, but then I would have 3 times.
It's like the more we get, the more we have,
There would have to be a point of like where I need to reach a point of diminishing returns where like the podcast is making so much that it makes no sense for me to allocate any other time outside of the like podcast and anything around the podcast at the time, So like, yeah, absolutely. I would be down to do this as a full-time job. Like funny enough, when I was younger, I was interested in doing YouTube and all that stuff. My dad crushed those dreams, killed it straight away. I know he's listening to it right now. He's like, what? He killed it. He was like, no, books, school. Don't you even try. And I was like, okay. And then, funny enough, the same guy is the one that goes back to me. He's like, look at your age mates, KSI, Deji, all these guys. Look how much money they're making from this YouTube thing. What are you doing? And I'm like, I wanted to, but you stopped me.
Yeah, and it's crazy because he'd be like a really big fan of our podcast too. So he's very encouraging, just like all family members are. They're very.
We could have already been rolling cash. Just saying, if you had let me do what I wanted to do when I was younger.
The next speed.
I would have been the Irish KSI.
Yeah, without the accent, I suppose.
Yeah, without the accent, but it is camp still.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm already doing this as my full-time job in my eyes. I'd be definitely the first one to quit my job, because I'm very happy to take on, all the editing bits, so Farouk can just work, and I'll take the responsibilities.
But I still wouldn't let her do it, guys. Please. I would still at least do what I was already doing.
Yeah, that's cute, actually.
Like, what the fuck?
I appreciate it. But then I feel like if I were to do it as a full-time job, it would give me so much more time to, kind of make more content for specific platforms.
Yeah, exactly.
Even maybe start vlogging once a week. And a lot of like different fun little side projects that we could do and work on simultaneously. It's just...
Listen, you guys don't deep this. I had, even for ages before we even like blew up on anything, I have a full plan, a full roadmap as to what we would do if we turn these into a full-time job. I have series that we're going to do. I have the weekly schedule. I literally sat down with Nicola, like, I can't remember how many months ago it was, before we even blew, saying like, oh yeah, if this actually blows, this is how we do. Like, we release this one on this day, this on this day, this series on this day. I have a whole plan. So I'm just saying,
yeah,
you get a lot of good content if you
just got paid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
One thing that has irked me a little bit, about like the editing and everything is, and not that I'm not appreciative, but we've gotten a lot of people who reach out that are, editing companies or people that are doing it by themselves, trying to reach out and being like, oh, we've noticed you guys need some help with your editing, or we've noticed you guys need some help with the clips you put out, or
Nicola takes it personally.
I do, because it's like, oh, we see your clips, they're great. However, no, there's no however. Like, leave us alone. As you can see, we're very consistent. We're constantly put out content, and we're happy to do so. And it's just, I don't know, to see so many people reach out trying to put your work down.
Well, I feel like it's not really putting your work down. Like, I think it's like kind of a good thing. It shows that like they're seeing that there's growth there, and they're trying.
Oh, come on.
And they're trying to take an opportunity to be like, hey, yo, like, because a lot of people who are big use full-time editors, and like, let me be your full-time editor.
It's like, I'm here before you guys proper blow off.
Like, that's what they're trying to do, and fair play to them. Like, and it shows that at least it means that we're doing something right. That people are like, yo, we want to be your full-time editor.
And I respect it. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, I respect it. But if I were to choose an editor, I would never choose the one who's like, we noticed you guys put in clips. It's just that they're not that great. I actually don't rate that. You're putting down my work and then you want to work for us? No, thank you.
Well, yeah, no. Obviously, if we also did this full time, absolutely getting a full time editor, because then we wouldn't have to think.
No, I actually would continue.
No, I think like if you were doing a bunch of series and stuff, like I feel like there's a certain point. Once again, law of diminishing returns. Like every big YouTuber, it's like you get to a point where it makes more sense for you to focus on the content you're making than editing the content that you make.
It depends, because I know I was listening to Emma Chamberlain, and she was saying how she got a full-time editor and whatever, and then she started to feel very like she doesn't understand her purpose anymore, doesn't have the passion for creating content, because her passion was the content creation and editing it, not the in front of the video.
Yeah.
I guess.
But also at the same time, like, no hate, no shade to Emma Chamberlain, but like for the podcast itself, like the one that she releases, all she does is just
it's not the podcast.
Okay, for the actual
the
thing.
video editing.
Yeah, but She doesn't release that much, does she? I know her thing is pretty straightforward. She does kind of like very straightforward vlogs.
I don't know. I like her editing style. I think it's very unique, and she used to put out a lot of content before that was very unique to her. And I really liked it. I really enjoyed it, and I feel like that could potentially be me, because I do enjoy experimenting with stuff and like, you know, using the kind of like editing skills and marketing it. I do like doing that, and I wouldn't like to fully quit just yet.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying no or never.
Yeah, like once again, it all depends on like what you become. Like essentially, like if you become like one of those like big like channels, like those massive ones, like let's take like MKBHD, like he needs a team of people to do what he does, you know. Like there's certain things, like I think it all depends on like how far reaching our content like if our content is just consistently just like this right now, the podcast and weekly and the clips, I think we probably don't need anyone to help us with that. But I feel like if we end up doing like multiple things on top of that, like that's when, you know, you kind of have to figure out what you're going to do.
It's just, my thing is, I'm very difficult to say yes to different projects until it's 100% we can commit to this. Like, you know, say even with all Farouk's itinerary that he had in mind, half of those things will get scrapped, because until we're at a point where we're actually making money and can produce these things consistently, I'm not willing to say yes to any of these things.
Oh, yeah, but obviously, like that's how it have to go. Like as if I'm gonna give you guys content for free on top of what I'm already doing, God knows that could never happen.
Okay, would you ever do a meetup?
Would you guys like us to do a meetup? Because if you would like us to do a meetup, I'll do a meetup. Just don't chef me. But no. You
need security in place.
I'm joking. We don't need security. Lol, I'll be like, Wagwan G, what you saying? What you saying? No photos. I'm joking. I'll take photos. But I'm not really a photo person. I'll do it for you guys. But no, I like if you guys were actually ever down for that, we'd actually do it. Like it's pretty straightforward answer for me anyway.
No, 100%. I think it would be so cool to meet you guys. I don't know about the idea of like a live show. The pressure would definitely get to me.
Not me. I would kill it. I'd be like, yeah.
But I would love like a meetup. A meetup would be so cool. Even if it's like a little booth in a bigger convention type center.
Something or whatever.
I think that would be cool. I'd be down to do that. So hopefully, if we can continue growing together, we'll get there. But on to the last question of today. What are some of your advices? That's not even a word.
Advice.
What is your advice for someone wanting to start a podcast?
Just do it. Just do it. Whatever. Like as I said, we literally started on stereo, which was literally a phone call between two people, essentially. Like, you forget about quality, forget about that shit. Just put out what you want to put out into the world and just do that. Like, honestly, like, obviously, if you're one of those guys just holding a mic chatting about misogynistic shit, maybe question whether you want to put that into the world or not.
But look at that.
You know?
Some of them are succeeding.
Yeah, I know. Absolutely. There you guys are making money. But also think about what you're going to become. Like, if you're ready for that kind of fire. Honestly, just put your shit into the world. Just talk. Do whatever you want. Like, a lot of people love to... Like, yes, there is obviously a massive trend of everyone starting a podcast, quote unquote. Yeah. And like everyone, like, not everyone should be given a mic. Yeah, but whatever. It's a free world, free speech. Do whatever you want. Say whatever you want. And like, you know, like be ready for whatever is going to come your way. And just like do that. Honestly, like you will improve over time. Your quality will get better over time. You'll get new things. Like, look, we went from a lightning thing to a sign. You went from into our old place to an actual table and stuff like that. Like it just slowly gets better because you just have more time either to dedicate, or you start saving up money for like little things to improve on it, or you do whatever. It's like, but just start, because all of that doesn't mean shit. You can get all your fancy equipment and you can still end up your podcast after like 5 episodes.
Absolutely.
It's about just being consistent and just starting and continuing from there.
Yeah, I think that's really solid advice on the starting, because it's very easy to get bogged down on, but my favorite, you know, podcaster has 500 euro mics and all this crazy setup, and there's just no need for that. We record in our home with our phone every single week. Yeah. And I don't think we're going to change it for a very long time, because first of all, it works. It's doing the job that it needs to do. And second of all, it's just money that we don't need to spend there. This is just a little hobby that we're doing, and it's enjoyable. And the other kind of piece of advice is definitely to stay consistent with it, because a lot of people pick it up and drop it because they don't see the instant success, and it's hard to see the instant success.
Was the statistic that like 90% of podcasts literally like don't make it past like the 5th or 10th episode or something like that? So like literally it's like most people just leave it after that,
Yeah, and like the thing is with podcasts, I feel like it's hard to grow because there's so many these days. Exactly. There's a lot of competition, everyone just starting and dropping and starting, dropping. Well, don't get bogged down by it. And my advice is definitely to be heavy on using social media platforms to market your podcast. And I know that it might be an extra step, but like we found it helped, because until we had those clips, it was just very slow. Like it was just very, very, very slow. Whereas that kind of generated a little bit more engagement coming in from Instagram or from TikTok or from whatever platform. And try to do that for sure. Use, because these are tools that are free, available to you, so why not?
Exactly. Like if you had told me literally at the start of the year that we'd have like nearly 2,000 subscribers on YouTube, over 50K on Instagram, and like 20K on TikTok, I would have been like, you're kidding, because it's that slow of a grind. It's literally that slow of a grind to like grow these things when there's so many people constantly doing these things, but it's kind of like how all your favorite YouTubers, like everyone always hears it, like all your favorite YouTubers, all your favorite people, they always, what do they always say when they're giving it? They always say, just start, literally just start. And then like everyone's like, oh yeah, but the market is overly saturated, it's this, it's that. Yes, but just start, because you don't know if you're going to bang or not.
Absolutely.
If you're not consistent with it, like it's a different story if you've been doing it for like, let's say 3 years consistently, 2, 3, 4 years consistently, and nothing's come of it. I think, okay, then you can be like, yeah, this thing is just not working out, right?
Or maybe you haven't done different things, played
obviously,
around.
Like during the time, you should definitely try other things. Like don't ever just do the same thing for 2, 3, 4 years. Like after a while, you have to be like, yo, maybe we have to change some shit up. But if you do go through lots of things and nothing happens, then feel free. Like no one's telling you to do it. Like, and that's why it's important to do it as a hobby and not something like where you dump a fuck ton of money in and then you get nothing out of it, and it's a lot more frustrating. Whereas if you do it as a hobby and it slowly grows, you're happy with it. So
no, 100%. Like I said, use the free tools that are literally available to you, and put your stuff out there, make yourself heard, and don't be discouraged just because you're not seeing crazy numbers in the first few months. It took us a year to grind up to 50K on Instagram, which is crazy, by the way. A lot of people don't get to 50K in a year. I think it was just it just so happened that Instagram happened to be in their short pushing reels, and we were there at the cusp of it. But we're still, that doesn't mean we're not grinding on TikTok still, and it's taking so long.
Like look, we only have 2K people on YouTube. How can you have 50K on IG and 2K on YouTube? It's mad.
It's not necessarily transferable. People are not going to leave a platform to go to another. Exactly. It's not guaranteed. But that, use them all. Use every single one available. TikTok, when I first started making content, if you guys might know, if you don't know, I used to be, still am sometimes, a TikTok content creator. I grew my account to 100K very fast. And in this day and age, it's very hard. It's very hard. There's so much competition. It's insane.
Everyone and their mother is making TikToks. Literally.
No, quite literally.
I know mothers that make TikTok. I'm not joking with you. So yeah, take it as you will. Like it's not like it's consistency is key. Just put out content that you are happy with and put it out consistently. And if it takes off, it takes off, and just keep going with it.
And be proud of your work. Because I remember my first day at my current job, when, we were having some introductions at work, and they were asking me, what do I do? And I was like, oh, I have a podcast. Mind you, we had 11 followers on, subscribers on YouTube. But I was like, yeah, this is what I do. This is what I'm proud of. I'm happy to do this. Don't be ashamed, or don't take, compare yourself to others, because comparison is a thief of joy.
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully those advices help you more. And we'd like to just wrap off with just a big thank you, obviously, to every single one of you listening, watching, following, subscribing, commenting, sending this, sharing, the whole thing. Like, we literally wouldn't be anywhere near where we are right now if it wasn't for your support. Like, you guys have just been amazing. Like, you've just been there for us. And like, all the day ones who have just been there consistently, you know who you are. Like, it's just been amazing. And to think that we could get anywhere near, like, even near 2K on YouTube is just insane to me, because like, it is not an easy task, and we'll just keep continuing to grind and hopefully try and make things better and more enjoyable for you all.
We look forward to an exciting year together. So don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, share, all of that good stuff. Till next time.
Peace.